guide knows which one of these essentially identical paths is correct when something in the corner of my eye catches my attention.
I believe I saw something over there.
Keep walking. No need to worry.
The guide's voice is calm and level. I decide against pressing the issue, not wanting to set everyone even more on edge.
What did he say?
Perhaps not wanting the conversation to be caught by the guide, he speaks softly, though I couldn't quite hear him because of it. I take my eyes off Margaret ahead for a moment to explain it to Bimel and stop dead in my tracks. Only one word is able to escape me in my stunned state.
Behind.
Creepy. No, thank you. Behind Bimil stands another figure, looming in the darkness. Seeing my face, Bimil grabs the hilt of his sword. He whips around, then staggers swiftly backwards. Several meters away, a crooked, twisted black figure hobbles its way towards us. Some kind of liquid drops off its head, curling around the edge of its face. It almost looks like it's crying. Emil backs up until he's standing beside me. The figure continues its slow advance, head jerking from one angle to another.
What on earth?
It's one of them.
Yes, Nixie that stumble across the bridges looking for opportunities.
I figured a Nixie would be something more interesting, like looking like more appealing because of the name. The guide is standing next to us. I didn't even notice him approach.
The ones that can make it out of the water are generally referred to as prowlers.
I had no idea things like that were out here. Is that what Kika saw down the other path?
The guide says nothing, instead returning to the front of the party. Margaret watches him pass. Her frustration morphs into nervous optimism when something seems to come into her mind.
Well, Nixie aren't slowed down much by swords, but at least the light keeps them away, right?
Margaret's hand grips her face tight, and desperation bleeds into her voice. I bite the inside of my lip.
Direct light will force it to return to the lake. However, it'll try to drag the light, or you, down with it before it goes.
Instinctively, I reach for the hilt of my sword, despite the fact that it would do little to protect me. The prowler is getting closer, jerking forward, stopping, then resuming its slow advance.
Okay, does anyone have a light we can leave here? That way it won't follow us.
Only matches.
Camille spits. He's the only one bringing up the rear, so he's the one most likely to be in danger if it keeps following. The guide, however, moves forward.
Don't forget it's there, don't let your guard down, and don't get left behind.
Yep, I thought so too.
What? How am I supposed to keep walking with this thing at my heels? You said it wants to attack.
Oh, that's lovely.
Don't give it the chance.
Bamil sputters in anger, and the guide similarly ignores him. I solidly grab a hold of Bamil's upper arm.
Here, I'll lead you like this, and you can keep your focus solely on the prowler. Make sure it doesn't get too close.
Bamil eyes the guide with unresolved hostility, but allows himself to softly sigh in relief. He gazes at me with fondness.
At least there's someone I can count on.
Despite the fact I'm going against his advice, the guide says nothing more. It's clear now that he doesn't give a damn what we end up doing. Some part of me is glad for that. I want to help everyone make it through. And it would be worse to have to persuade the guide every time help was necessary.
Kika, thank you.
Bamiel places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Do we want to start something there, or just keep it hands off? Pretty much. Pretty much. Are you grunting, Toby? Hi. That yawn. I feel Bamiel start as I reciprocate his touch, but as quickly a smile replaces his shock. The moment is pleasant, a small balm against a large burn. I harden my expression, and Bamiel follows suit. He moves his free arm down, and I fully link his arm with mine, and now, properly settled, look forward. Margaret is following the guide with some reluctance, turning back every so often to check on us. I wave my lantern to signal we're catching up. Margaret returns her head to the front and quickens her pace. With a tug on Bamiel, we start to follow then. The four of us continue cautiously over the bridge, only this time the wet, squishing steps of the prowler join the sound of our own. In spite of myself, I grip Bamiel tighter. The prowler walks without a set pattern, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. It takes long steps, then short ones. At times it stops walking entirely. Does it hurt to be out of the water like this, or is it trying to be difficult to read? Suddenly, the whispering in the lake grows louder. I steel myself, trying not to let it get to me. The most important thing in a situation like this is to remain calm. I can't lose my head. Then all at once, I notice the guide and Margaret have come to a halt.
Benley, they're stopping.
Bamiel slows down as I do, and we near Margaret's back. She says something to distress.
There's another one.
I tug on Bamiel, and he understands. Dree drew up close to Margaret, ready to protect her if need be, but the guide holds out a hand.
Don't get any closer.
Just over his shoulder, I see another prowler stumbling towards us, white liquid dropping from its eyes. The guide's hand turns over in the air, palm up.
Give me a lantern. We'll throw it.
Margaret extends her own with a trembling hand, then Bamiel speaks instead, his back still turned.
If you have to take someone's, take mine.
Wow, ain't he a trooper?
Yes, an extra light won't do us much good when we're standing this close together.
Margaret takes Bamiel's lantern from him, guarded relief displayed on her features.
Thank you.
She hands the lantern to the guide, whose hand grips it tightly, knuckles growing pale.
Stay here. I can't throw it too far. The light will blow out before it reaches the Nyx.
He steps closer to the monster, his movements light and confident. As he nears, the prowler starts to back away. Is it only the approaching light that's making it retreat, or are they afraid of him? The guide is far enough away from us that the fog is partially obscuring him, hiding his movements. The voices from the lake grow louder and louder. Water suddenly begins to splash across the lake in the distance and onto the edge of the bridge. They want him to mess up. I didn't notice how tense I am until Bamil eases my grasp on his arm. Then suddenly, the guide takes multiple long and fast strides forward, throws the lantern, and jumps backward to regain the lost distance. Yes. Good point. I agree there. There's a sharp hiss and then a deep splash, and the voices of the Nixie grow quieter. Not silent, but quieter. A sigh escapes me, and the guide comes back to our group.
We should keep going before it comes back.
I glance at Bamel and realize he too is looking relieved at the guide before us. And then I see it. The first prowler, it's still there. It's right there. I shift around, pulling Bamil behind me. The prowler lounges after him, barely missing Bamil, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out. The two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Then there's a slick splash, and I realize the Nyx has retreated into the water. Somehow, Bamil and I are still standing. We're still here.
Kika, thank you.
No, you shouldn't have talked. I can't respond. Something cold, wet, and slimy has grabbed my ankle. I kick my leg out as fast as I can, and the Nyx's hold slips. It can't pull with the momentum I gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, her lantern hanging out towards the Nyx. The light brushes its face. We see it for an instant, its eyes wide, and then it slides back into the smooth surface of the water. Bamil grabs Margaret and I both, helps us towards the center of the bridge, cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bamele. We're all fine.
That was close. We're gonna save right there.
Are you actually alright?
Margaret cocks her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge around my trousers.
I am fine.
I say that, though I don't actually want to let go of Bamil. I need to in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety, but I feel such a strong desire not to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let go of him, relighting the lantern as fast as I am able.
Kika, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Margaret nods solemnly. Suddenly, it seems like we're all on the same side. It isn't only Bamil and I, she is with us in more than simply presence. Yep. The guide's voice, as cold as the monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw. The Nyx grabbed it after the light went out.
Margaret makes a noise, and I glance over, wondering whether she's upset, but there's a small smile on her face instead.
It's better than them taking anything else.
True. A nervous laugh bubbles up out of me and just as quickly stops. Bamil chuckles in response, and our collective tension eases up, the adrenaline draining from our bodies.
We need to keep walking.
The guide starts down the bridge again, and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief, the ease that wants to flood out my head. It's not over. The prowler is gone, but so is Bamil's lantern.
You can stay near me, Bamele, since your lantern is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margaret goes on ahead of us. Bemil stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. The breath of release from Margaret and Bemil is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinlos as well, replaced by the gravity of the near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival, something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my eyes.
Why does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The prowlers are on Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pained expression, it is as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though. They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land? It's not right.
Of course it isn't. They are monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly hope that's the last we'll see of the Prowlers.
Something comes to her mind, causing Margaret to end her part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margaret stops and waits for Bemil and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bemele loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margaret.
Nope, she's gonna die. She will die. Bemil's surprise is so apparent. I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margaret may be surprised with herself, too. Yes. Well, she did die. It didn't explain why, but she did die. You groaning? Are you a groaning boy? Being hungry. Bemil returns to his usual surety.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kika focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Margaret and Bemil turn to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margaret falling behind us. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting panzered by the enemy would be an almost sure death, no matter how experienced Bemil and I are. No, I ate lunch late. I ate lunch around like 3:30, and so I haven't eaten dinner. I'll eat dinner whenever I get done streaming. With the combination of the two streams, we've been going for about an hour and almost a half. So here shortly we will end this part of the stream and we'll start getting onto the just chatting areas. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult.
So you're staying behind?
Seems like it.
Yes, I think we'll be good here.
I hope I made the right decision.
But really, thank you. That was a very kind offer.
Well, alright.
Margaret respects our decision and trots ahead a bit to catch back up with the guide. He who has paid no mind to the entire affair.
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
First. Was the first one the one that I decided? Or was that her being in the back? Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, like light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
I like the way you think.
Hopefully you don't die. Then a gleam enters Bamil's eyes and he grins.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
Okay. Good. Glad we agree. I like the count, like the timer on it, but then again it's also kind of like, I hope I didn't choose wrong. He leans softly onto my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Bamil shakes a fist at Margaret in mock anger, then shoots me an affectionate look.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bamil laughs, self-consciously scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I am pleased, almost grateful to hear what they think of me, but I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Right? And especially because, like, it's not like I can wait for you to help me decide. It's just literally like I have to make that moment choice. And it's like, oh shit. Which means I'm going to actually save right now. Just in case. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be set on such friendly terms with my companions. After some time, I notice Margaret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she was before. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margaret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, but Bamil and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. We go faster and faster until suddenly we're full-on sprinting across the slick wooden boards. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths in the bridges appear to be sinking. I try hard to swallow my rising panic. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't stop, turn. When he takes a masterfully sharp right down a different path using his own momentum, and then the sleek would slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Margaret must not have worked out the warning either, as she completely caught off guard by the guard's change in course. She runs straight ahead, past the turn, and continues down the path we've been following up until now. She clumsily begins to halt her momentum down to the wrong bridge. Then I come upon the fork. No. I keep straight ahead, not making an attempt to go the correct direction. Bamil seems to fumble slightly, but stays close behind me in the light. I inwardly apologize. I come upon Margaret, who nearly runs into me in her efforts to turn around. Her face twists at the sight.
Why are you...
I ignore her and move to face the other way. The path we came from is disappearing into the water. It's sinking.
We have to jump.
What?
Margaret holds up her hands, but I grab her and spin her towards the path the guide is on.
Go! We'll catch up.
But...
Bemele and I will have to jump together. He needs the light. Just move.
I practically shove her, and without further hesitation, she takes the leap. She makes it just past the edge of the bridge, knees buckling as she lands, but is soon back up on her feet and holding her lantern out towards me. She beams with pride. I gesture down the bridge to the guide's rapidly fading light, where Margaret slowly nods and then runs after him.
Here.
I offer Bemele my hand, tightening my grip on my lantern. Bemele accepts the offer, giving it a brief squeeze. A tight smile plasters itself across my face as I try to calculate the distance between our bridge and the other, and then the ground starts to shake more.
Jump!
We dash to the bridge's edge and leap. Cold air rushes past my face, winding its fingers into my hair. For an instant, I think I see something moving underneath the surface of the water. Then we land hard on the wooden bridge. Bemele lets out a sigh of relief as we both creakily get fully back to our feet. Oh. Yes, it was, actually. Oh no, the other one. The one where they said point. No, the one to decide whether or not to turn or not was timed.
Stay close. We need to run.
I'll be right behind you.
I take off, not bothering to ensure Bemele is staying true to his word. I know he'll follow. The guide's fading light bounces in the distance, a clear signal that he is still running. Focus everything I have to catch up. Slowly, we begin to close the distance. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. Even my stamina is being challenged. I can't imagine what this must be like for Margaret. She is holding her sides as she runs, clearly cramping from the exercise. Yeah, that one, yeah. Sorry, I caught in the moment. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Bemele's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. There, curled in a little ball, illuminated by a lantern's light, cowers a person. His hands grip his head, and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out onto these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
I snap my eyes away from the man instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here. We've managed fine enough already, and these creatures will probably pluck him away as soon as we've gone. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us. His eyes seemingly glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at the others. Bamil is outraged, but Margaret is staring at the man with something like fear. She is uneasy, but she doesn't voice her concerns. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges.
Nope. Nope.
I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. Hi, Toby. Are you getting hungry? I know you probably want food too. Aye. Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It is a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely show us the way. We're on our own. Margaret, Bamil, and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. None of us have a desire to speak and be the first to make a choice. The man standing now though still hunched with his arms wrapped around himself as expecting a blow, he stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you. But that's not how things always go. Doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is meandering. The words themselves seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his own hands. Bamil frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
Hi. He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You were curled up in a ball when we met.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Emil huffs, tossing his hands in the air.
That's not even the right way.
It could be, if he's trying to get to the side we came from.
He must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore that he started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There's no response to this remark, unsure what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body, noticing the scrawniness of his limbs, scrawny, but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly, looking at us as if watching a play. Interest, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bamil looks at Margaret. She avoids his glaze.
Perhaps I could have let him share my light before. But the guide has said the one with him has to remain behind, and I simply wouldn't be able to manage it.
Camille's hands turn into fists. He looks away but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared come to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around himself. Margaret might not be able to take him, but there's another way this could be solved. I could stay with him. Before I click again, our decision, because I don't want it to be a choice one. Need to feed the dog soon. This is no. I say no. We already cut it close when we went to help Margaret. I don't want to make it worse. Toby, are you hungry? You look hungry. I definitely don't like this. We're gonna save again. I'll put Bamil and myself at a significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. I still say no. Nope. Toby, stop gnawing on your paws. Hi. Yeah. I can't risk it. Margaret and Bamil stare at the man as he leaves. We watch him drag his little frame down the bridge, quickly fading from sight. We had to let him go. We only barely been surviving so far. The space the man vanished into is dark and silent. We can see or hear nothing of him, not even his footsteps. Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe we should call him back? We can at least give him directions. Tell him what paths we've been taking.
It's not going to make any difference. We can't give directions when the bridges we were on might very well have sunken away.
We shouldn't focus on what might become of him. He has his own path to follow, and we ours. We should focus on what we're doing now.
Of course, it's not really a might. But we have to get through this somehow, and being weighed down with guilt will only distract us. The guide starts moving again at a quick pace. After a moment's hesitation and one last glance into the truly lifeless fog, we run to catch up to him. We walk onwards in silence. Our paths haven't changed. The stranger was never added to it. Our paths haven't changed. So it's not as if it makes sense to miss him, but there's no sense of loss all the same. But there's a sense of loss all the same. And no one even attempts to mirth. Hi, Jack. Hi, Fluffy boy. But I have to let this go. I'm not going to forget that man. I'll never forget him. But we still need to get through this. I curl my hands into fists, hoping it'll strengthen my resolve. Then I push forward. We turn down a different path and the guide stops. Ahead of us stands a group of prowlers. At the sound of us, they turn their heads in unison, as if they knew we were coming. I inhale.
Not again.
The prowlers wriggle somehow, their skin moving so more slowly than it should, sliding across their skeletons. They laugh.
We already lost a lantern and it's only our first day. We can't keep doing this.
Yes, we can't lose a lantern at this point. We're almost to the island.
The guide rummages through his coat with his free hand.
What are you planning?
The male's tone is borderline threatening, but the guide ignores him. Pulls out a small patch, then opens a latch in his lantern.
Wait, are you going to throw that at them? What if the bridge sets on fire?
It will. We're going to run.
Well, okay then. Hi.
This is insane! These bridges are hellish enough without them also being on fire. And what about the other man? If he's still out there, this could...
He's dead. We're not losing another lantern.
He says it with such detached certainty, it's as if he saw it happen himself. No one argues with him. Apparently, the guide steps closer to the prowlers. We fall into step behind him, staying close to his back. He bends his lantern back down until it's lowered to his outstretched arm. The pouch in his hand is set aflame. With a practiced flick of the wrist, he swings the staff back and up. The glass on the lantern snaps closed.
Don't get left behind.
He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back in the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to lick and curl itself around the wood. The guide breaks into a sprint, and so does the rest of us. The blaze grows despite the heavy dampness from the lake. These bridges aren't normal bridges. Of course that's true. Nothing here is right. Hopefully they won't collapse with the flames. We stay on the guide's heels, almost too close for comfort. If he stops abruptly, we'll all crash into one another. Maybe even fall off the bridge. Then the world tilts. I was mid-stride when I put my foot down. The bridge isn't where it was. It lurched to one side, either because it was weakened or pushed. Bamil and I managed to keep our ground, but Margaret falls to the ground, at least. I thought that was what happened. She starts pawing at the bridge. My glasses fell off. I can't see. The guide, having regained his balance, presses on. He doesn't even bother to look at her. Emil and I run to Margaret, scanning the bridge, but there's no sign of her glasses. The flames are growing thicker and closer, the heat life-sucking, close enough to nip at her heels. I grab Margaret's arm.
Your glasses aren't here anymore. We have to go or we'll lose the guide.
Margaret squints up at me, her face paler than ever. She nods and stands, and we start after the guide again. As our storm of feet thunder across the boards, a silver sliver begins to rise into view just above the edge of the water.
It's the island.
The island? I squint and suddenly make out the craggy forms of land and earth. I see it. We're almost there. Safety at long last in sight. New energy surges through me. We push ourselves faster, longing to put these godforsaken bridges behind our backs. All at once, the bridge ends, and our entire group rushes ashore. Earth, solid earth, a haven from water. I catch my breath while still moving even further away from the dark shoreline. I can't believe we actually made it. Even more difficult is the idea that we're only halfway done. When night falls once more, we have to do it again. A heavy arm falls across my shoulders, and I straighten to see Emil smiling wearily at me.
Good work out there.
It's not the usual don't know that word of job well done. There's sadness, perhaps even sympathy in the sentence. It ends flatly. Usually Bamil's comfort and good nature gives me at least the urge to smile, but right now it feels like a hollow victory. He moves to face Margaret, who is squinting at the surrounding area.
Good work out there.
This statement is more energetic. He's not willing enough to show a lack of confidence in front of her. Margaret smiles slightly. Oh yeah.
How are you doing without your glasses?
Oh, I'll manage. I have to, after all. I'm not completely blind, thankfully, so I can muddle my way through.
There isn't anything much to see out on those bridges. As long as you stay away from the edge, you should be as safe as you were before.
That's true. It will be fine.
And then the guide is there. He moves so smoothly that his steps on the soft sand are nearly silent, and his dusky clothes blend in with the thinning of the night.
The sun will rise soon. The fire on the bridge is the only reason this island isn't overrun with prowlers right now. However, they could still pose a threat.
Is that why you decided to set the bridges on fire? To make the island safer?
The guide looks at Margaret for what I suddenly realize might be the only second or third time all night.
Setting the bridges alight isn't an uncommon strategy. It has many uses.
He walks away, Margaret frowning at his retreating form.